I never thought I'd be standing in front of my own cabin with a sheriff and a for sale sign, watching my family being evicted from a property they never owned. The champagne drips down my face, stinging my eyes as I maintain my composure. My sister Caroline's mascara streaked face contorts with rage, the empty bottle still clutched in her trembling hand. I hate you, she screams, her voice carrying across the lake where just moments ago music had been pounding from speakers. You've ruined everything. Behind her, my mother Marion stands frozen, her wine glass shattered at her feet, while my father Joseph's ghost seems to hover over this public humiliation. The influencers and business associates they'd invited are already filming, whispering, backing away from the family that had claimed ownership of a property that was never theirs. Sheriff Jones steps forward. Miss Frost, would you like to press charges for the assault? I wiped the expensive champagne from my face, feeling it soak into the black dress I'd chosen specifically for this moment. 20 years of savings. Countless overtime hours. A dream turned nightmare. No, I say quietly. No charges. Just get them out. How did we get here? When did the people I loved most become the ones I needed protection from? Flashback, first sight. The first time I saw the cabin, mist was rising off the lake like spirits dancing on water. Morning light bathed the rustic structure in gold, and something in my chest tightened with recognition. This was it. This was the place where I'd finally bring my fractured family together. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, private dock, the realtor had said, but I barely heard him. I was too busy picturing Christmas mornings by the stone fireplace, summer barbecues on the deck, my mother actually relaxing for once, with a genuine smile, not the practiced one she wore for neighbors, and even my sister putting down her phone long enough to play a board game. It's at the top of your budget, the realtor warned, misreading my hesitation. I'll take it, I said, surprising even myself. What I couldn't articulate then, what I barely understood myself, was that I wasn't just buying property. I was buying the hope of healing. My family had never owned anything like this before, and I was going to be the one who changed that. Your family must be so proud, he said, handing me the paperwork. I smiled, imagining their faces when I showed them. They will be. The day I signed the papers, I sat alone on the empty dock, dangling my feet in the cool water. I thought about my childhood, how we'd never had vacations like other families. Mom was always comparing our lives to her friends, always finding us wanting. Caroline and I shared a bedroom until I left for college, the walls plastered with her posters, my books crammed into a single shelf. This is for all of us, I whispered to the lake, to the trees, to myself. A place where we could finally be the family I'd always imagined we could be. My mother had always taught me that family was everything. Blood is thicker than water, Eleanor, she'd say whenever I complained about Caroline getting away with something I'd have been punished for. Family sticks together no matter what. I believed her. That was my first mistake. Flashback, the revelation. You really did it, my mother whispered when I first showed them around. Her fingers traced the wooden banister, eyes wide as she took in the vaulted ceiling and wall of windows overlooking the water. I watched her carefully. Growing up, I'd become an expert at reading the micro-expressions that flickered across my mother's face. The slight tightening around her eyes when she was jealous, the almost imperceptible downturn of her mouth when she was calculating something. Now I saw both, quickly masked by a smile. How could you afford this? She asked, and I heard the real question beneath. How could you afford something I couldn't? I've been saving for 20 years, Mom. Every bonus, every raise. Living in that tiny condo while I swallowed the rest. While you complain about your house. While you bought new furniture you didn't need. While Caroline went on Instagram worthy vacations funded by your credit cards. Worth every penny, right? My mother just nodded absently, already moving to examine the kitchen with a critical eye. Caroline bounced from room to room, squealing about Instagram possibilities. This room would be perfect for my meditation videos, she called from upstairs. The lighting is everything. I smiled, ignoring the fact that Caroline had never meditated a day in her life until it became trendy on social media. My sister had always been the family chameleon, adapting to whatever would get her the most attention. When we were teenagers, she'd stolen my clothes, my friends, even a boyfriend once. It's not my fault people like me better. She shrugged when I confronted her, as if her betrayal was somehow my failure. We had our issues. What family doesn't? But this place would bring us together. I was certain of it. That certainty lasted exactly 2 weeks. Flashback, the first signs. I drove up for the weekend and found empty wine bottles in the recycling bin. Strange since I hadn't been there in days. When I called Mom, her voice had that honeyed quality it always took on when she was trying to manipulate a situation. "Oh, I stopped by with the girls," she said casually. "The key you gave us? We're allowed to use it, right?" "Of course," I said quickly, swallowing my surprise. "Just maybe let me know next time." But they didn't. Soon Instagram posts started popping up. Caroline doing yoga on my deck, Mom hosting her book club in my living room. When I tried to plan a family weekend, there was always an excuse. "Oh, honey, this weekend's not good," Mom would say, her voice dripping with false regret. "I have my bridge club, and Caroline's got that influencer thing." I'd swallow my disappointment and focus on work. The cabin could wait. Family takes time to adjust, right? I'd been making excuses for them my entire life. When Mom borrowed money from my savings account as a teenager and never replaced it. When she missed my graduate school graduation because of a social event. When Caroline accidentally ruined my favorite dress because it was prettier than hers. Their family, I tell myself. They love me in their own way. My therapist once asked me if I was trying to buy my family's love with the cabin. I'd laughed it off, but lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling of my tiny apartment while mentally calculating mortgage payments, I sometimes wondered if she was right. Then came the renovation demands. "The kitchen needs updating," Mom announced during a rare dinner together. "Those countertops are so dated, and the guest bathroom, that tile has to go." "I like it as is," I said. "Besides, I just spent my savings on. If you want us to spend time here, it needs to be presentable," she interrupted. "What will people think?" There it was, the lifelong concern that had driven so many of Mom's decisions. What will people think? As a child, I'd been dressed in clothes we couldn't afford, enrolled in activities that strained our budget, all for the appearance of success. Mom had grown up poor, the daughter of a factory worker who lost his job in the recession. Her childhood home had been foreclosed on when she was 16. Perhaps that explained her desperate need for status, her continual striving for more. But understanding doesn't excuse exploitation. I gave in. Another loan, another 60-hour work week. The contractors came and went. Mom supervised everything while I was stuck in meetings. Perfect timing. Caroline texted me photos of the finished kitchen. Just in time for my birthday weekend. "The whole crew is coming up." I frowned at my phone. "What birthday weekend? Mom didn't tell you?" "We planned it ages ago." "You're probably too busy anyway, right?" That's when I decided to surprise them. I left work early on Friday, grabbed takeout for everyone, and drove the 2 hours to the cabin. The driveway was full of cars I didn't recognize. Music thumped through the walls. Through the windows, I could see people dancing, drinking, definitely not just family. I pulled out my key, climbed the porch steps, and tried the lock. Nothing. I tried again. Still nothing. The key didn't fit. They changed the locks on my cabin. My cabin. I called Mom's cell. Once, twice, 3 times. Finally, she picked up. "Eleanor, now's not a good time, sweetie." "Mom, I'm outside." "The key doesn't work." A pause. Music pulsed in the background. "Oh well, we needed some privacy this weekend. You understand, right? You're always so busy anyway." I heard Caroline's voice, distant but clear. "Is that Eleanor?" "Tell her it's invite only." Laughter erupted behind her. My stomach clenched as I stood there in the dark, holding bags of cooling food, staring at my own front door. "Mom," I said, my voice shaking. "This is my house. I bought it. I pay the mortgage. Don't be dramatic, Eleanor. We'll talk about this later." I have guests to attend to. The line went dead. I sat in my car for a long time, watching shadows dance across my windows, listening to music blast from my speakers while strangers partied in my dream home. And slowly, as the night grew colder and darker, something inside me changed. They wanted to play games? Fine. Game on. At work, the disturbing discovery. You need cameras, Judy said, sliding a coffee across my desk. Like yesterday. I looked up from the email I was drafting to Michael, the lawyer I'd contacted after discovering my family had changed the locks. Isn't that a bit much? Judy's eyebrows shot up. Girl, they changed your locks. Nothing's too much anymore. She perched on my desk, lowering her voice. My brother sells security systems. High-end stuff. Connects right to your phone. Want his number? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with another Instagram notification. Caroline doing yoga on my dock. Morning meditation at the family lake house. Hash chiblist, hash namaste, hash lake house life. I showed Judy, who whistled low. Family lake house? Is she serious? Apparently. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. Judy and I had been friends since college, roommates our sophomore year when we both needed to save money. She'd seen my family's dysfunction up close, witnessed my mother's manipulations during parents' weekend, my mother's cold dismissals when she visited, Caroline's constant competition. She'd been the one who found me crying in our dorm room after my mother borrowed the money I'd saved for a spring break trip, promising to pay me back but never doing so. They're taking advantage of you, Eleanor, she'd said then. They always have. I hadn't wanted to hear it. Family is family, I told myself. They're just going through a rough patch. They'll change. Now, staring at Caroline's Instagram post, I wondered how long I'd been telling myself that same lie. Call him, I said, deciding. Your brother. I need those cameras. 2 days later, I watched through my phone as a cleaning service mom had hired wandered through my house. They opened closets, cabinets, drawers, places they had no business being. See? Judy peered over my shoulder at the feed. Told you they're nosy. The cameras caught everything. Mom giving house tours to her friends. Yes, we've had this place for years. Eleanor manages it for us, but it's a family property. Mom hosting extravagant dinner parties. All my doing, of course. Eleanor just helped with the paperwork. Caroline was the worst. She'd moved in half her wardrobe, converted my office into a content studio, and treated the place like her personal party pad. Holy, Judy whispered as we watched Caroline's friend Jason lay out lines of white powder on my coffee table. Is that evidence? I said, taking screenshots, my hands shaking with a mixture of shock and vindication. That's what that is, Judy confirmed grimly. I sat back, mind racing. How had we come to this? The same mother who'd grounded me for a month when she found a cigarette in my backpack planted by Caroline was now hosting parties where drugs were openly used. The mother who lectured me about financial responsibility was entertaining lavishly in a property she didn't own. The sister who I'd helped through countless crises was defacing my home. It wasn't just about the cabin anymore. It was about seeing my family, truly seeing them, for the first time. I need to talk to a lawyer, I said quietly. Judy squeezed my shoulder. I know a good one. But are you sure you're ready for this? It's going to get ugly. I thought about all the times I'd backed down, made excuses, forgiven without apology. All the times I convinced myself that if I just tried harder, gave more, expected less, my family would finally love me the way I needed to be loved. It was already ugly, I said. I just didn't want to see it. At the coffee shop The Decision, the next morning, I met Michael at a coffee shop downtown. He was exactly as I expected, professional with kind eyes that somehow made me feel I could trust him. He reminded me of Thomas, my late husband who had encouraged me to stand up for myself more often. I've reviewed everything, Michael said, spreading out papers on the table between us. The attempted deed transfer, the unauthorized occupancy, the documented damage. He paused the video I'd sent him. And what appears to be illegal substances on the premises. Can we use any of this? My voice sounded strange to my own ears, harder, colder. All of it. He hesitated. But are you sure you want to go this route? Family disputes can get ugly. I almost laughed. They're already ugly. I just want what's mine. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. Then let's talk strategy. The market's hot. We could list by next week, but first we need to handle the occupancy issue. You mentioned the sheriff? Yes. Given the evidence of illegal activity, they're quite interested. We can coordinate the eviction with the sale announcement. My phone buzzed. Caroline again. Big news coming soon. Lake house renovation starting next month. Wait till you see what we're doing with the boathouse. I showed Michael the post, my heart pounding. How soon can we move? I have buyers ready to view this weekend if we list Friday. Perfect. They're planning some big party Saturday night. Let's do it then. He raised an eyebrow. You want to list while they're having a party? Trust me, it's better this way. I needed them to see it, to feel what I felt when I stood outside my own home, unwelcome. I pulled out my own folder, organized, detailed, just as Thomas had taught me. Here's everything: deed, mortgage statements, tax records, insurance, plus screenshots of their social media posts claiming ownership. The security footage is uploading to your email now, including timestamps of when they changed the locks. Michael whistled softly. You don't mess around. They taught me that, I said, remembering all the times I'd been caught unprepared for my family's manipulations. Family lesson number 1. Always keep receipts. As I walked back to my car, I thought about Thomas. We'd met later in life, both in our 40s, both cautious after previous disappointments. You give too much to people who give too little back, he told me once. He'd encouraged me to set boundaries with my family, but old habits die hard. After his sudden heart attack 5 years ago, I'd fallen back into familiar patterns, seeking comfort in the same family dynamics that had always hurt me. My phone rang. Mom. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her message. Eleanor, honey, I don't know what nonsense you're planning, but you need to stop this right now. Caroline and I have invested too much in that property for you to ruin things with your dramatics. Call me back immediately. Invested. That word again. As if their emotional manipulation, their lies, their theft constituted some kind of contribution. I thought about all the family therapists I'd begged them to see with me over the years. All the books on boundaries I'd given them for birthdays and Christmases, hoping they'd get the hint. All the times I tried to have honest conversations about our relationship, only to be dismissed, gaslighted, or outright ignored. I'd tried everything. Everything except walking away. Maybe it was time. Friday afternoon, the plan. Friday afternoon, I called Caroline. She answered on the first ring, suspicion evident in her voice. What do you want? Just checking about tomorrow night, I said sweetly, channeling our mother's honeyed manipulation tone. Wanted to make sure I wouldn't be interrupting anything. You're not invited, she snapped. And you can't stop us. Mom already said. I know. Your party, your rules. I won't crash. Promise. I examined my nails, a calmness settling over me that I hadn't felt in weeks. Who's coming? She hesitated, then pried one out. It always did with Caroline. Everyone. Like, literally everyone. 3 DJs, all my top followers, some major influencers flying in. Sounds expensive. Jason's handling most of it. His trust fund, you know. She couldn't resist bragging. We're announcing our new business venture. The cabin's going to be our content creation hub. I thought of Thomas, who'd built his own publishing career from nothing, who'd taught me the value of honest work. What would he think of this venture built on theft? Really? Tell me more. 20 minutes later, I had every detail, guest list, timeline, even the hashtags they planned. Caroline always did talk too much when she thought she was winning. Back home, I laid out my outfit for tomorrow. Black dress, red lipstick, heels that could kill. Judy had called it my revenge formal look. It was far from the worn jeans and flannel shirts I'd imagined wearing at family gatherings by the lake. My doorbell rang. A courier held out a thick envelope. Delivery from Marion Frost. Inside was a contract hastily drawn up. They'd offered to buy the cabin from me with a payment plan, of course. A post-it note in Mom's handwriting. Be reasonable. Family helps family. Family helps family. The same line she'd used when she borrowed money from my first publishing advance. When she volunteered me to babysit Caroline's friends' kids for free. When she guilted me into paying for Caroline's car repair just until next month, a month that never came. I took a picture and sent it to Michael. Nice try, he texted back. But too late. Buyers are locked in. Another text came through, this time from Helen, my cabin neighbor. Your sister's friends are setting up cameras everywhere, telling neighbors they're filming some big reveal tomorrow. Oh, there'll be a reveal all right, I replied. I spent that night watching the security feeds. Mom directing caterers. Caroline practicing her spontaneous announcement speech in my bathroom mirror. We're so blessed to announce our new business venture, Lake House Studios. Thanks to my amazing family for providing this gorgeous space. Thomas used to say that character is what you do when no one is watching. I wondered what it said about my family that they could only be their true selves when they thought I wasn't there. I thought of all the nights I'd worked late, all the vacations I'd skipped, all the tiny apartments I'd lived in to save money. All for a dream that had died the moment they changed those locks. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. Whatever you're planning, reconsider. I raised you better than this. Did she? I wondered. She'd raised me to sacrifice my needs for the family, to give without expectation of return, to measure my worth by what I could provide. She'd raised me to be their safety net, their backup plan, their ATM. Maybe it was time they learned what else she'd taught me: persistence, determination, and the importance of documentation. Time to end this story, I texted Michael. See you at 8:30, he replied. Wear something fierce. I looked at my black dress, thought about all the times I'd given in, backed down, played nice. Not tonight. Tonight I was wearing karma. And karma, like revenge, looks best in black. Saturday night, the confrontation, music thumped across the lake as Michael and I pulled up behind the sheriff's SUV. The party was in full swing, cars lined the driveway, people spilled onto the lawn, and my deck was packed with dancers. Through the windows, I could see Caroline holding court in the living room, surrounded by her influencer friends and their phones. Ready? Michael asked, holding up the for sale sign. In the fading light, his kind eyes held a question. Are you sure? I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. Sheriff Jones approached, clipboard in hand. Ms. Frost, we've confirmed the property ownership. Ready when you are. We walked up the path together, past groups of partiers who barely noticed us. The music was deafening now. Through the front windows, I saw Mom directing caterers, her face animated as she played the perfect hostess in a home that wasn't hers. I remembered countless dinner parties growing up, being trotted out to perform for her friends, always with the implicit message, look what a perfect family we have. Look what a perfect mother I am. The reality, the fights, the manipulations, the constant criticism, safely hidden behind closed doors. Sheriff Jones knocked firmly. No response. He knocked louder. Finally, Mom opened the door, wine glass in hand. Yes. We're in the middle of a private event. Her voice died when she saw me, the wine glass slipping from her fingers, shattering on the porch. Eleanor? Her eyes darted between me, Michael, and the sheriff. What is this? Property reclamation, Sheriff Jones said officially. I have papers here. No. Mom tried to close the door. The sheriff blocked it with his foot. Mom, I need you to gather everyone. And Caroline. Mom screamed over her shoulder. Caroline. The music cut abruptly. People turned to stare. Caroline pushed through the crowd, her face draining of color when she saw us. Eleanor, don't do this, she started. Already done. Michael stepped forward, hammering the for sale sign into the front lawn. Camera phones swiveled to record. Caroline pushed through the crowd, Jason trailing behind her. What the hell? You can't just... Actually, I can. I held up my folder. Deed, mortgage, and proof of ownership, plus documentation of unauthorized occupancy, property damage, and, I smiled at Jason, various illegal activities. You were spying on us. Caroline shrieked. No, I was monitoring my property. Big difference. Jason looked confused. This isn't your family's vacation house? Nope. I bought it alone. They just borrowed it without asking. Mom stepped forward, voice honey sweet, the same tone she'd used when convincing bill collectors to give her more time, when persuading teachers to change my grades when I was struggling, when manipulating others into giving her what she wanted. Sweetheart, let's discuss this privately. You're embarrassing yourself. Really? I pulled out my phone. More embarrassing than this, I played the security footage. Mom's voice filled the sudden silence. Eleanor always gives in. She's desperate for our approval. We'll have the deed transferred before she notices. Caroline lunged for my phone. Sheriff Jones stepped between us. Miss, I wouldn't. This is my house. She screamed. We announced it. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what you told them, I corrected. But lies don't hold up in court. Court? Caroline pushed forward. Now wait just a minute. The property has been sold, Michael announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. New owners take possession Monday. All current occupants need to vacate immediately. Sold? Mom swayed slightly. You can't. I can. And I did. Sheriff Jones will supervise the evacuation. Evacuation? Caroline's voice rose higher. But my followers, my announcement, Jason's investment, was never yours to take. I turned to the crowd. Party's over, everyone. Properties being seized. People began grabbing their things, muttering and filming. Jason backed away from Caroline. You said this was your place, he accused. You said your mother. She said a lot of things. I cut in. None of them true. Mom grabbed my arm. Eleanor, please. We can work this out. We're family. Family? I jerked away. Family doesn't change locks. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't. The rest was cut off by the splash of cold liquid hitting my face. Caroline stood there, empty champagne bottle in hand, mascara running. I hate you. She spat. You've ruined everything. Sheriff Jones stepped forward. Miss, that's assault. Would you like to press charges? I wiped my face, feeling the champagne soak into my dress, the dress I'd bought specially for this moment. The perfect revenge outfit, now ruined. Like everything else they touched. For a second, I saw us as we were 20 years ago, Caroline screaming because I touched her things, Mom taking her side, me expected to be the bigger person, to forgive, to understand. How many times had I apologized for things that weren't my fault? How many times had I taken the blame to keep the peace? No, I said quietly. No charges. Just get them out. You heard her, the sheriff announced. Everyone out. Now. As people filed past, I heard the whispers. Can't believe they lied about owning it. Did you get all that on video? Influencers, man. It's all fake. Michael touched my arm. You okay? I watched my family being escorted out of my house, Mom crying dramatically, Caroline screaming into her phone. 20 years of dreams destroyed by their greed. No, I said honestly. But I will be. The music had stopped. The party was over. And finally, the house was mine again. But it no longer felt like home. Aftermath, the truth. The aftermath was worse than the party. Empty bottles everywhere, cigarette burns on my furniture, and something sticky coating every surface. Mom sat on the porch steps, refusing to leave, while the sheriff waited patiently. You've destroyed this family, she said as I walked past with a trash bag. Pretty sure you did that when you tried to steal my house. We weren't stealing. We were protecting our investment. What investment? I spun around. Show me one receipt, one payment, $1 you put into this place. She looked away. Her silence was more honest than anything she'd said to me in years. Inside, Caroline was shoving clothes into bags, still ranting into her phone. My followers are devastated. We had sponsorship deals lined up. brand partnerships. Not your house, not your deals. I started collecting empty champagne bottles. Should have thought about that before lying to everyone. I wasn't lying. I was manifesting. Is that what we're calling fraud now? When we were younger, Caroline had gone through a shoplifting phase. I caught her once, pockets stuffed with makeup from the drugstore. It's not stealing, she'd insisted. It's just evening things out. Jessica's parents buy her whatever she wants. It's not fair. I'd paid for the makeup then, from my own money, to keep her from getting arrested. I'd covered for her with mom. I'd believed she'd grow out of it. Some patterns never change. Jason appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. Caroline, my dad's lawyer called about the business loan. Not now, she hissed. I raised an eyebrow. Business loan? Jason shifted uncomfortably. We took out a startup loan for Lake House Studios, using this property as collateral. A loan? I turned to Caroline. Using my house? Mom said it was fine. She said once the deed transferred, the deed that you tried to steal. I laughed bitterly. Hope you got a good lawyer because fraud charges. Fraud? Mom appeared in the doorway. No one's pressing charges. We'll handle this as a family. Family? I pulled out my phone and played another security clip. Her voice filled the room. Eleanor is naive. She'll sign anything we put in front of her. Always has. She paled. Where did you get cameras? Everywhere. Got some great footage of your dinner parties too. Wonder what those social friends would think. Enough. Mom's voice rose sharply. You're being cruel. Cruel? I gestured around the trashed house. Like changing my locks? Like trying to steal my deed? Like letting your daughter take out fraudulent loans? We were desperate, she shouted. I needed financial stability. Caroline needed a fresh start. You thought I'd cave like always. I faced them both, but I'm done being your backup plan. Sheriff Jones stepped in. Time's up. Everyone out, but my things. Caroline protested. Should have thought about that before the champagne assault. I pointed to the door. Out. They filed past me one by one. Mom tried to hug me. I stepped back. Caroline stormed past, Jason trailing awkwardly behind. Michael appeared with papers. Ready to sign now? Mom spun around. No. Perfect timing, I said, taking the pen. Witnesses everywhere. Eleanor, please. Mom tried one last time. Think about your sister's future. I am. I signed with a flourish. I'm teaching her. Actions have consequences. You'll regret this, Mom said quietly. When you're alone, I'd rather be alone than be your ATM. Caroline made one final scene, throwing herself onto the couch. I can't leave. This is my home. Miss, Sheriff Jones sighed. Don't make me remove you physically. She got up, mascara streaking her face. I'll never forgive you. Funny, I said, watching her go. That's exactly how I feel. The door closed behind them. Through the window, I watched them load their cars. Mom crying dramatically, Caroline still filming everything. Well, Michael said beside me, that was intense. Worth it. I handed him the signed papers. When can the new owners move in? Monday. He hesitated. You sure about this? We could still. I'm sure. I watched their cars pull away. Some things you can't fix. My phone buzzed. Messages flooding in. Mom, you've broken my heart. I hope you're happy. Caroline, my followers are devastated. You've ruined my brand. And then, surprisingly, from Jason. Sorry about everything. Didn't know it was your house. Lawyer says I can sue Caroline for misrepresentation. I blocked Mom, left Caroline unread, replied to Jason. Good luck with that. Michael touched my arm. Need help cleaning up? I looked around the trashed house, my dream home destroyed by the people I'd wanted to share it with. No, I said. The cleaning service comes tomorrow. I just want to. Want to what? I walked to the deck, looked out over the lake. The same view that had made me fall in love with this place. But now, Instead of seeing family gatherings and shared memories, I saw something else. Freedom. I want to watch the sunset, I said. One last time, without their shadows hanging over me. He nodded, understanding. Want company? I thought about it, about being alone, about choosing who to let in. Yes, I said. I think I do. Revelation, the final truth. The cleaning crew had just finished when Helen stopped by. She surveyed the spotless living room, now empty of my family's chaos. Quite a show last night, she said, handing me a coffee. Whole neighborhood's talking about it. I bet they are. I sank into my armchair, the only piece of furniture I was keeping. Seen any of them today? Your sister drove by twice, filming. Your mother's been calling everyone, playing victim. Helen sat across from me. But that's not why I'm here. She pulled out her phone, showed me a social media post. Caroline, tear-streaked but defiant. Swipe up to support my legal fund fighting family betrayal and toxic property theft. Justice for Caroline. Theft? I laughed. That's rich. I kept scrolling. Mom had shared it. My daughter Eleanor has broken our hearts after all we invested in that cabin. Invested? A new voice cut in. Michael stood in the doorway, holding papers. Show me those receipts. I smiled. Since that sunset talk, he'd become more than just my lawyer, more like an ally. Final walkthrough? I asked. And something else. He laid out documents. The buyers found these in the boathouse. Loan applications in your name. My stomach dropped. What? Forged signatures. Your mother tried to take out equity loans multiple times. Helen whistled. That's serious fraud. Already sent copies to your lawyer. Michael sat beside me. Want to press charges? I stared at my mother's familiar handwriting, more betrayal, even now. My phone buzzed with messages from them both. Mom, I'm in the hospital. Blood pressure dangerously high. This is your fault. Caroline, Mom's sick because of you, but my followers are supporting me through this trauma. Already raised $5,000 for legal fees. When I was in my 30s, Mom had used a similar tactic, claiming chest pains, being rushed to the hospital when I confronted her about money she'd borrowed from me. The doctors had found nothing wrong, but I'd been made to feel like a monster for days. The emotional manipulation was textbook Marion Frost. I blocked them all permanently this time. No charges, I decided. Let them live with what they've done. They're still lying about you, Helen pointed out. Let them. Truth comes out eventually. Michael gathered the papers. Speaking of truth, the buyers found something else. Old property records. He spread out yellowed documents. My eyes caught familiar names. This cabin, he explained, was originally owned by your maternal grandmother. She left it to you specifically in her will. Your parents contested it, lost, then sold it before you turned 18. They what? The cabin was always meant to be mine. They sold my inheritance, then watched me buy it back with my own money. The truth hit like a physical blow. All those overtime hours, the savings, the loans, buying back what should have been mine all along. That's why they wanted it so badly, I whispered. They thought they could take it twice. My grandmother. I barely remembered her. She died when I was 5. But I remembered sitting on her lap on a porch overlooking a lake. This will all be yours someday, little one, she'd said, stroking my hair. A place where you can be yourself, away from all the noise. Had she seen it even then? The toxicity in her own daughter? Had she tried to protect me the only way she could? And my mother had stolen even that from me. A memory surfaced, long buried. Mom crying after Grandma's funeral, not with grief but with anger. She never thought I was good enough, she told a friend, not realizing I was listening from the hallway. And now she's trying to control us from the grave. I'd been confused then. Now it made perfect sense. Your grandmother must have known, Helen said softly. She must have seen something in you worth protecting. I thought about my quiet, bookish childhood self, always trying to please, always taking responsibility, always believing in the goodness of others despite evidence to the contrary. The girl who'd convinced herself that if she just loved hard enough, sacrificed enough, her family would eventually love her back the same way. Had my grandmother recognized that vulnerability? Had she tried to give me something that was truly mine, something no one could take away? Except they had taken it. And now, in a twisted circle of fate, I'd bought it back only to lose it again, this time by my own choice. A car pulled up outside, the buyers, right on schedule. Through the window, I watched them emerge. A young couple, excited, taking pictures, building their own dreams. Ready? Michael asked softly. I took one last look around at the lake view I'd fallen in love with, at the spaces I'd hoped to fill with family memories. Then I pulled out my phone, opened my blocked messages, and typed quickly, Mom, hope you feel better. The cabin sold. Don't contact me again. Caroline, keep the donation money. You'll need it for lawyer fees when those loan companies come calling. P.S. I'm keeping all the security footage, just in case. That's it. Helen asked. No big confrontation? They'd love that. More drama for their social media. I stood up, grabbed my bag. But sometimes the best revenge is just walking away. Michael opened the door. The buyers waited eagerly on the porch, clutching their keys. Welcome home, I said, stepping past them. Aren't you sad to sell? The wife asked. It's such a beautiful place. I thought about my family, about betrayal, about the peace I felt right now walking away from their chaos. No, I said honestly. Sometimes beautiful things aren't meant for us. Sometimes they're just stops along the way. I walked to my car where Michael waited. Helen hugged me goodbye. What now? She asked. I looked at the cabin one last time, not with sadness or anger, but with something lighter. Freedom, maybe. Or hope. Now. I smiled. I built something new. Something that's just mine. I got in my car, Michael beside me, and drove away from the dream I'd outgrown. As I turned onto the main road, I remembered a conversation with my therapist years ago. What if they never change, Eleanor? She'd asked. What if they're incapable of being the family you need? Then I'd have to accept it, I'd answered. But I have to try everything first. And if you try everything and it still doesn't work? I hadn't had an answer then. I did now. If you try everything and it still doesn't work, you save yourself. You recognize that some people will never value what you offer, will never see your worth, will never stop taking until there's nothing left to give. And you walk away. Not with bitterness, but with understanding. Not with hate, but with boundaries. Not with regret for what might have been, but with hope for what still could be. Behind me, my family's lives crumbled like sandcastles in the tide. Ahead lay something better. My own truth, my own path, my own happy ending. No family drama required. Epilogue 6 months later. The coastal cottage is nothing like the lakeside cabin, smaller, simpler, the sound of waves replacing the stillness of the lake. But it's mine. Truly mine. I sit on the porch swing, laptop open, working on my manuscript. The publishing house where I've worked for 2 decades gave me a 6-month sabbatical after I pitched them my book idea. Family Inheritance, Breaking the Cycle of Emotional Debt, is already halfway done. My phone chimes with a message from Michael. After the sale, our professional relationship evolved into something more personal. Coffee dates became dinner dates. Dinner dates became weekend visits. He's coming tomorrow, bringing groceries for the dinner I'm cooking. There's another message from Helen. She's sent a screenshot of Caroline's latest social media post. My sister's justice fund dried up after her followers realized she'd lied about owning the cabin. Jason's lawsuit for loan fraud is proceeding. Mom has moved to a smaller apartment, playing the victim to anyone who will listen. I should feel something, satisfaction perhaps, or sadness. But mostly I feel distant, as if watching the finale of a show I stopped following seasons ago. I close the message without responding and return to my writing. The words flow easily now, unburdened by the weight of expectations I carried for so long. When I was little, before the fighting started, before my father died, before Mom's bitterness and Caroline's jealousy, our family took a trip to the beach. I remember Mom laughing, Caroline building a sandcastle with me, everyone happy in that fleeting moment. For years, I chased that memory, trying to recreate it by giving them what I thought they wanted. I didn't understand then what I know now. You can't build a relationship on one person's sacrifice. You can't love people into loving you back the way you need to be loved. My therapist says I'm making progress. The nightmares, where I'm locked out of houses that belong to me, where I'm shouting but no one hears, have mostly stopped. I no longer check my phone first thing every morning, bracing for manipulative messages. I've stopped apologizing for taking up space, for having needs, for setting boundaries. Last week, I received a letter from a law firm representing my mother. She wanted to negotiate visitation rights, as she put it. Rights to me, as if I were property or a minor child. I returned the letter and opened. Judy visits often. She brought me a housewarming gift, a security camera for my front door. Old habits, she joked, but we both knew it was more than that. A reminder that I could protect what was mine. That I was allowed to know who entered my space and why. Sometimes the grief hits unexpectedly. Not for the family I lost. That family had never really existed except in my imagination, but for the family I never had. The mother who might have celebrated my successes instead of competing with them. The sister who might have been a friend instead of a rival. But grief is part of healing. So is anger. So is forgiveness, not for them, but for myself. For believing I could fix what was broken before I was born. For thinking my love was enough to transform people who didn't want to change. The ocean stretches before me, boundless and ever-changing. I think about my grandmother's words, a place where you can be yourself, away from all the noise. Perhaps she knew I would need to lose the inheritance twice to truly understand its value. I save my work and close my laptop. The sun is setting, painting the water in shades of gold and pink. I have time for a walk on the beach before dinner. This is what freedom feels like, I realize. Not the absence of pain or loss, but the presence of choice. The ability to write my own story, not the one others have scripted for me. I am Eleanor Frost. And this is the story of how I lost a dream cabin, but found myself in the wreckage. How I learned that sometimes the hardest thing isn't achieving your goals. It's recognizing when those goals no longer serve you. How I discovered that the most valuable inheritance isn't property or possessions. It's the courage to walk away and begin again.